Friends, welcome to our today's session. Let us continue our discussion on the concept of residential status. Let me share my screen with you right now. Friends, we are discussing about residential status and taxability. One part of the lecture was already over. And we have understood this primary thing. We know that the total income computation depends on the residential status. And we have seen that assessee's income has to be computed on the basis of residential status. And we can classify assessees like individual, HUF, and other type of assessees, other 5 other category of assessees. We kept taking it as a separate class. For all other assessees except individual and HUF, like let us say farm, company, AOP, BOI, and let us say AJP, local authority. These status can have only 2 types of residential status. Either they can be resident in India or they can be non-resident, right? But when coming to individual and HUF, they can be either resident in India or non-resident in India. But once they're resident in India, there can be 2 more possibilities. That is resident and ordinarily resident, and resident but not ordinarily resident. Okay, that means individual and HUF, there are 3 possibilities. Okay, they can be resident and ordinary resident, resident but not ordinary resident, or non-resident. Okay, and there is one more concept which is called as a deemed resident. Deemed residents will always, this is applicable only to individuals, and they will be always treated as resident but not ordinary resident. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
How to know an individual is a resident or not? These conditions we had discussed and we had done some examples also. Okay, so these are the basic conditions. We can say the primary conditions. There is something else we'll be learning ahead that is called as additional conditions. Additional conditions are required to do the further classification. The basic conditions is if the individual is in India for a period or periods amounting to 182 days or more in the relevant previous year, then he is a resident in India, or he is in India for 60 days or more during the relevant previous year, and he has been in India for 365 days or more during 4 previous years immediately preceding the relevant previous year. So, if either of these conditions are satisfied, condition number 1 or condition number 2, condition number 2 has got 2 elements. So, both the things has to be satisfied. Okay, so if these conditions are satisfied, we can classify that individual as a resident in India. Okay. What is the meaning of India? We had discussed it earlier, and we had also tested various cases, various situations when an individual can be treated as resident and non-resident. In the last recorded video, you can find it. Yeah, and at that time also we had discussed when that is the normal route. There are exceptions to that. For example, exception is that an individual who is a citizen of India, if he leaves India for the purpose of employment, or an individual who is a citizen of India who leaves India as a crew member in an Indian ship, or an individual who is a citizen of India or is a person of Indian origin who, being outside India, comes to India on a visit. In this situation, in these conditions, when we have used 60 days, 60 days term, that has to be replaced with 180 days. That means 60 days will be read as 182 days in this situations. Okay, is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that means an individual can stay in this kind of situation up to 181 days without affecting its non-residential status. Okay. So all these concepts we have discussed in the last. Then there is one more concept, deemed resident concept. We've seen this case. However, if such person Such person means in that condition, if an individual who is a citizen of India or a person of Indian origin who being outside India comes to India to visit, having total income other than the income from foreign sources exceeding 15 lakhs during the previous year will be treated as resident in India if he has stayed 180 days in the relevant previous year and during 4 years immediately preceding the relevant previous year, the total stay he has been in India during 4 years immediately preceding the previous year for the total period of 365 days or more, and has been in India for at least 120 days in the previous year. So in this case, only in this situation, if his Indian income, that means other than income from foreign countries, exceed 15 lakhs, then you have to see this more condition: 365 days in the 4 years immediately preceding the previous year, and instead of 60 days, it is 120 days in the previous year. Okay, if that is so, that person will be treated as resident in India. This condition also we have discussed here. The 60 days here in the second condition will be read as 120 days in this situation. This concept also we have discussed. Friends, we had also discussed this new concept, that is deemed resident. Section 6(1)(a). Here it says that Indian citizen whose Indian income is more than 15 lakh, and if he is not liable to pay tax in other countries for whatever reason, or because of his domicile or some other reason, he will be treated as a deemed resident. Okay, this concept also we had discussed in the previous class. What is the meaning of person of Indian origin? We had discussed what is the count, how days will be counted, all these things you have seen. This had some examples, some cases we had solved in the previous class. Okay, now friends, having understood this, after this example we are done. Now, next concept is that we have to classify a resident individual into 2 more categories, that is resident and ordinary resident, and resident but not ordinary resident. Is it not? To that thing, first of all, we have to see that individual is a resident or not. If he is a non-resident, then there is no issue, there is no further classification, right? But in case he is resident, then what we have to do? We have to again find out for a staying resident whether he is an ordinary resident or not an ordinary resident. Okay, now let us see how we will be able to classify whether a resident is an ordinary resident and not ordinary resident. Okay, friends, is it clear up to this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now
Yes,
let
sir.
us see. This is the condition you see. Resident and ordinary resident for individuals we are talking about. Now, if you see, can you read it? If he satisfies both the additional conditions. What is the condition number 1?
He has been resident in at least 2 previous years out of 10 previous years immediately preceding relevant previous year.
So, you find out what is the relevant previous year, and you have to see 10 previous years immediately preceding the relevant previous year, and you have to see whether he is resident in at least 2 years. That is condition number 1. And condition number 2, second condition.
His stay in India during 7 previous years immediately preceding relevant previous year should be 730 days or more.
Here what you have to do, you have to see what is the relevant previous year. Then you have to see 7 previous years immediately preceding the relevant previous year. And you need to count the number of days of stay. And you have to see if he has stayed at least 730 days. Then, if this condition is also satisfied, he will be considered as a resident and ordinary resident. So, in order to classify a resident as resident and ordinary resident, these both the additional conditions need to be satisfied. Okay, so you have to exclude the relevant previous year. Beyond that, you have to see 10 preceding previous years. and at least in two preceding previous years, any two, maybe first year, last year, maybe fourth year and eighth year, it doesn't matter. Any two previous year, he should be resident. Okay, are you saying? And in addition to that, you have to see the 7 preceding previous years, 7 years. And you have to calculate the number of days, and you need to see that whether he has stayed for 730 days or more. Okay, if he has stayed for 730 days, then they are resident at ordinary. Friends, here you have to remember this, both these conditions need to be satisfied. If both are not satisfied, or anyone is not satisfied, then that person will be treated as resident, but not ordinary resident. Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you have to go 10 years beyond the relevant previous year. Okay, so this is for your easy understanding. I explained you in this way. But if you refer to the provisions of law, you have to read it like this. Provisions of law has defined what is the meaning of, first it has defined what is the meaning of resident, but not ordinary resident. Now, if you see, now you look at this definition. A not ordinary resident is a person who satisfies any one of the conditions specified in section 6, subsection 6. Number 1. If such individual has been non-resident in India in 9 out of 10 previous years preceding the relevant previous year. Are you getting it? Are you able to get it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What it is saying? He has been non-resident in 9. Okay. That means at least out of 10 years, if he is resident in 2 years, then this condition will not be satisfied.
Sir, Adya is waiting, so she asked me to tell you to let her in.
Okay, okay. Right, that I will do. Yeah. Did you understand the first condition?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That means if the person is resident in 2 previous years, that he will be considered, he will not be considered as not ordinary resident. He will be treated as resident. That's why I had simplified that condition for you, that if you see, if he is resident at least in 2 previous years out of 10 preceding previous years, he will be considered as resident or ordinary resident. Second condition says, if such individual has during 7 previous preceding years, preceding to the relevant previous year, has been in India for 730 days or 729 days or less. If he is there for 729 days or less period, he will be treated as not ordinary. That means if he stays for 730 days or more, he'll be an ordinary. Okay, 729 days or less is not ordinary. 730 days or less is ordinary. So therefore, it is easier for you to remember in this way. His stay in India during 7 previous years, immediately preceding the relevant previous year, should be 730 days or more. Okay, so you please remember these 2 primary conditions. But if you refer to the section, you have to read it like this. Okay, there are 2 more situations when a resident will be treated as not ordinary resident. For example, if such individual is an Indian citizen or a person of Indian origin, who being outside India comes to India on a visit in any previous year, and the total income other than the income from foreign sources, that means we are talking about his Indian income, is exceeding 50 lakh rupees during the previous year, and who has been in India for 120 days or more, or 120 days or more, but less than 180 days. Because if it is 180 days, he is always a resident during the previous year. Okay, so during the previous year, he has stayed for 120 days in this situation. Okay, this situation we have discussed. This kind of person will be always treated as resident, but not ordinarily resident. And fourth situation, if such individual is an Indian citizen who is deemed to be resident in India. Who is deemed to be resident in India? That means who is, this is the last condition I had shown you earlier, you see. In this situation, deemed resident situation. That means his Indian income is more than 50 lakh and he is not liable to pay tax in any other. This person will also be treated as resident but not ordinary resident. If you look at this chart here, you can find out that the deemed residents are always resident but not ordinary resident. Okay, I think you've got it.
Yes, sir.
So, once again, let me tell you, it is important for you to remember these two conditions. We call it as the additional conditions. Primary conditions, you know already how to know if resident, how individual is resident or not. Additional condition is that you have to see whether he is a resident at least in 2 previous years out of 10 previous years immediately preceding the relevant previous year. And you have to also see whether he has stayed 730 days or more in 7 previous years immediately preceding the relevant previous year. Okay. And you have to remember that deemed residents are always resident but not ordinary resident. Okay. But law has first defined what is the meaning of resident but not ordinary resident. Then it has tried to explain that who is an ordinary resident when he is not ordinary resident. That means in none of the conditions are satisfied. So it is always to remember, it is always to understand it in a reverse way. First, we'll understand who is a resident and ordinary resident. And then we'll see who is a resident but not ordinary resident. With this background, I think we are in a position to solve a case. Let us see this situation, see this answer. Let us see how many of you are able to answer. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
So let us try. So what you have to see, conditions you have remember. In 10 years, you have to see the person should be resident at least 2 times. Right? And 7 years, you have to see 730 days.
Yes.
If both are satisfied, then what you will call that person? If both the conditions resident and ordinary resident, he is anyway resident. First of all, he is resident. If he is a non-resident, then you need not apply this additional conditions. Okay. So in 7 years, 730 days, and in 10 years, 2 times. So always it is better to check the first 7 years. If first 7 years he has not stayed 730 days, then his first condition you need not check, because both the conditions has to be satisfied. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Friends, try to understand. First, you have to see whether that person is resident or not. If he is a non-resident, then you need not apply the additional condition, because you have seen a individual can either be resident or non-resident. If resident, then you see whether he is resident and ordinary resident or resident but not ordinary resident. Okay, if he is non-resident, then you do not worry about this. He is non-resident, is non-resident. There is no further subject. But how to know he is resident, ordinary resident, but not ordinary resident? You have to see 730 days in 7 previous years. 7 previous means what? You have to find out, let us say, my assessment year is 22-23. What is the relevant previous year?
21-22.
Relevant previous year is 21-22. Beyond that, you have to see 7 years. Okay, this 21-22 status is relevant to know whether primarily he is resident or not. Beyond that, you have to see 7 years. And in addition to see that, you have to see one more condition. What is that? resident in 2 years, at least in 2 previous years, in a period of 10 preceding previous years, prior to the relevant preceding. Prior to the relevant previous year. Did you understand this?
Yes, sir.
Will you be able to apply this to
Yes,
condition?
sir.
Okay, so let us check it now. Okay, so this is I'm showing you, I'm giving you 7 cases, 7 situations. And for these cases, our assessment year is 22, 23, 2022 and 23. And you can see what is the relevant previous year now?
21, 22.
21, 22, you see the data is appearing in the black color. Then if you see 7 previous years preceding the relevant previous year, you can see the data is appearing in pink. And the additional 3 years, because also you need the 10 years data. Okay, it is appearing in the maroon color. So now you answer me, what is the case number 1? He is what? Can you tell me? This is the situation of an individual. This is the number of days of stay. Whether he is a resident, and that is resident and ordinary resident, or resident but not ordinary resident.
Sir, resident.
Resident, I know, but the question is that whether he is a resident and ordinary resident, or resident but not ordinary resident.
So resident and ordinary resident. The first
Resident and ordinary resident. Okay, resident and ordinary resident. Because in 7 years you can find 730 days. And in 10 years also you can find out he is resident at least in 2 preceding previous years. Right? So first case is, you can see he is resident and ordinary resident. Now case number 2.
So he's resident.
Resident. Okay,
Yes,
you
sir.
see, the primary condition here is that resident is fine, but you have to see ultimately whether it's an ordinary resident or not an ordinary resident.
So, ordinary resident.
Ordinary resident.
Yes, sir.
What is the condition of ordinary resident? In the 7 preceding years, he should have stayed at least 730 days. He has stayed for 730 days.
No, no, no.
Then second condition we did not check. I told you that both the condition has to be satisfied. Now tell me what is the residential status in case 2.
Resident but not ordinary resident.
Resident but not ordinary resident. So he is not an ordinary resident. Now tell me case 3.
Sir,
Yeah.
resident but ordinary. Resident and ordinary resident.
Resident and ordinary resident, because you have seen in 7 years. You have seen the data in 10 years also. Okay, 730 days or more are resident in 2 preceding previous years. Okay.
Yes, sir.
First of all, you have to see whether a resident or not. Resident, how you know? 100 days or more, or 60 plus 365 days. 60 days plus 365 days. On that condition, first of all, this person is a resident.
Yes, sir.
Okay, once he's resident, you can see the 7 years. He has stayed 730 days and more. So first condition is compliant. Then 10 years. Here also you can see in 10 years he is resident. So this condition is also compliant. So you can say he is a resident and ordinary. Case number 4.
Sir, resident but ordinary resident.
Oh, you are saying he is a resident. He has not stayed 80 days. He has not stayed more than 180 days.
Sir, 60 days plus
60 plus
360.
365. Very good. 60 plus 60. He is a resident. If he is a resident, then you see ordinary resident.
Yes, sir.
Okay, he is a resident and ordinary resident. Case 5.
Here in case number 5, he has not stayed, first of all, he has not stayed 182 days in the relevant previous year, but previous year of the relevant previous years, he lived all those days. But the condition 1 and condition 2 is not satisfied here now.
So here your point is that the primary conditions are not satisfied, but secondary conditions are satisfied.
Yes, sir.
Additional conditions are satisfied. Then you tell me what is his residential status?
Deemed resident?
No, deemed resident is a different situation. As I told you, if you look at the earlier chart on the board, right, for test vehicle, first you have to see whether he's a resident or not. You tell me whether he's a resident. 180 days condition is complied with. No. 60 plus 365 condition is complied with.
No.
So he is a non-resident. And if he's a non-resident, then you need not check the additional conditions.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Understood?
Yes, sir.
Case 6.
Sir, resident.
Resident, but I
Yes,
want
one.
whether he's an ordinary resident or not ordinary resident. That answer also I want.
Not ordinary resident.
Yes.
Ordinary resident,
Not ordinary resident.
not ordinary resident. Why not ordinary resident?
So it is not fulfilling the condition of 730 days.
730 days is not complied with. So we need not check the second condition because additional conditions are joint conditions. Both the conditions has to be satisfied. If one is not satisfied, we need not check the second one. So he is a resident, but not ordinary resident.
Yes.
Now, please see case number 7.
So resident and ordinary resident.
Resident and
Ordinary resident.
ordinary resident. Are you
Yes.
sure?
Yes, sir. So the first condition is satisfied that, sorry, the second condition that is 60 days plus 365 days in the previous year. And also.
You see, you said 60 days and
70
365 days. 180 days he has not stayed. Second is 60 plus 365. 1, 2, 3, 4. Are they coming together 365 days or more?
So less than 365.
Less. Then what is his residential status?
Resident but non-resident, not.
No, first you
ordinary.
tell me whether he is a resident or non-resident.
Sir, non-resident.
The non-resident, then why you are applying additional conditions? Okay,
Yes.
the status is non-resident. That's it.
Sir, I forgot the 4 previous year. I like calculated all the previous years.
No.
Sorry.
First you apply the primary conditions. Then you
Yes.
apply the secondary conditions or additional conditions.
Yes, sir.
These 7 conditions on this particular example, I expect all of you to go through once again. Okay. If you are comfortable, then we can do additional questions also in the similar kind of thing. But here, once again, I tell you, please remember, please go back to our initial chart, what I told you. Right, now have a look at here. First, you have to see whether he is a resident in India. For that thing, you have to see 182 days, or here in between there is a or. That means both the conditions has to be satisfied. Or 60 days in the previous year and 365 days in the fourth preceding previous year. First, you have to see this is the primary condition. Okay. If it is not satisfied, then non-resident. Stop it. Stop there. But if it is satisfied, then only you have to see ROR or RN. Who is an ROR? Then 2 by 10. That means resident in 2 previous years in the prior 10 previous years. And 730 days in 7 previous years immediately preceding the relevant previous year. So this is how you can test it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think now you will be able to conclude that whether a person is a resident, non-resident, resident and ordinary resident, resident but not ordinary resident. If he is an individual, you will be able to know that. Now, here is a question for you, in fact. Just give me a moment. Just have a look at this question. On 1st June 2019, I will give this question for you. Just a minute. Yes, friends, here is this question. You try to solve it. I request some of you please read it out fast.
On 1st June 2019, Mr. X, a Malaysian citizen, leaves India after a stay of 10 years.
That means for 10 years he was there in India. Now on 1st June 2019, Mr. X is leaving. Right. Okay. Then
During the financial year 2021, he comes to India for a period of 46 days.
okay, he's coming to India for 46 days. He is there in 2021. Okay.
Later, he returns to India for 1 year on 10th October 2021.
10th
Determine his residential status.
2021, he is coming to India. Determine his residential status for 22-23. Okay. Can you tell me? This question has been taken from the example. This is one of the exam questions of Institute of Company Secretaries of India. So, very simple question. You can apply the concept. Can you tell me the answer?
So he's
Yeah.
so he is a resident and ordinary resident.
Yes. Let us see the answer first. So we are talking about assessment year 22-23. Okay. So previous year is 21-22, right? In 21-22, when he is coming? 10th October.
Yes, sir.
Okay. On 10th October. So if you see October, he is staying for 22 days, November 30 days, December 31 days, January 31 days, February 28 days, March 31 days, Total 173 days.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hmm.
And the question says in 2021, how many days he has stayed? For 46 days. That is there in the question. And 1920, 1920, this data is available. Oh, he leaves India on
Yes, sir.
1st June. So he is staying on April 30 days, May 31 days, June 1 day. So 62 days. And prior to that, let us say 1819 and back, he has been staying in India. So 365 days or 366 days, depending upon the leap year concept. So in the previous year, he was resident. And in 2021, he was non-resident. In 1920, he is resident. And in previous years, he is resident. So you can say in 2 previous years, he is resident, and 730 days he has already stayed. So you can say he is a resident, but not but resident, but a resident and ordinance.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you open a table like this, then it will be easier for you to find out the answer. Okay. I think you'll be able
Yes,
to.
sir.
Okay. Okay. So this is how we have studied. This is how we can conclude the residential status of an individual. Having covered this, now let us move to one more kind of assessment, one more type of assessment. Next, we'll move to HUF. And as you know, HUF also, there are 2 possibilities. That means either HUF can be resident or non-resident. And once it's resident and resident, then again we have to classify them as ROR or RNO. Okay, so this is applicable for individual as well as HUF. This type of classification is applicable. Now, let us see the conditions of an HUF. Now, if you see, when an HUF will be considered as a resident, when the business is wholly or partly controlled and managed in India. In that case, we'll be considering the residential status is resident. And when it is non-resident, when the business is wholly controlled or managed outside India, that is entirely managed outside. Okay, that means even a part control is there in India, means it is resident. Okay, so how to know the residential status of an individual? We need to know where the business is controlled from. Even if 1% control is from India, then it is resident. Because what the provision said, if it is wholly or partly controlled and managed in India. If control and management is in India, then it is resident. But if it is entirely controlled from outside, then it is not resident. Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Now here, try to understand one more thing, that the residential status of Karta doesn't matter here. To know whether an HUF is a resident or not, residential status of Karta is different. Karta may be a resident, may not be a, may be a non-resident, may be resident, but ordinary resident or resident, but not ordinary resident. That doesn't matter at this stage. This stage means to know whether he is a resident, whether HUF is resident or not. But the residential status of Karta will be relevant for further classifying the HUF's residential status. As you know, once you know the HUF is resident, because it is either wholly or partly controlled and managed from India, then we have to sub-classify them into 2 more categories. What are the 2 more categories? What are the 2 categories?
Resident but ordinary resident, but not ordinary resident.
Okay, resident and ordinary resident, resident but not ordinary resident. Okay, now let us see the additional pieces. But before that, let us understand what is the meaning of this control and management. We need to understand that. The control and management refers to the central control and management, not to the carrying on of day-to-day business by servants or employees or agents. Okay, there is a possibility that maybe your operational controls may be in India, but the central controls may be outside. Here, when we talk about the control and management, we refer to the central control, not the controls which are handled by the employees of the entity. Business may be done from outside India, and yet the control and management may be wholly within India. There is a possibility that business is, let us say, running from outside India, but the whole of its control and management may be in India. Therefore, control and management of the business is said to be situated at a place where the head and brains of the adventure is situated. The place of control may be different from usual place of running business, and sometimes even the registered office of the associates. There is a possibility, maybe registered office is different, but place of control is different. This is because the control and management of the business need not necessarily be done from the place of business or from the registered office of the associates. But control and management do imply the functioning of the controlling and directing power of a particular place with some degree of permanence. Okay, that means when you say the control and management, we need to find out where the controlling and directing powers are located with some degree of permanence. Okay, let us say the head of who is managing that HUA. If he is residing at a particular place, then you can say the control and directing powers are located here with some permanence. That means he's staying for some time. Okay, so on that basis, we can decide where the control and management is. Okay. So
Yes,
it is not necessary that where business is actually carried out. It is also not necessary if the entity is having some registered office where it is located. What is relevant here is that where the controlling and director power is sitting with some degree of permanence. That is important for us. Okay. Let us say you can say the HUF, the entire operation is at Singapore. But the person who is controlling and managing, the head of that family, let us say he is sitting at India with some degree of permanence. You can say control and management is in India. Even if the entire business is managed, if the business is carried out outside, there are managers who takes decisions, but the control is from India. Okay. Now, on that basis, first of all, we'll decide whether the business is wholly or partly controlled and managed in India or not. If it is wholly or partly means even one person is controlled and managed from India, then we'll be considering that HUF primarily as a resident. Now, once it is resident, then we have to apply the additional conditions that to know whether he is ordinarily resident or not. And what are the additional conditions? You are already familiar with that. Here, the residential status of Karta becomes important. And days of stage of Karta is important. Karta means the head of the HUF. Now, if you see, if the Karta satisfies both the additional conditions is what? The Karta of resident HUF should be resident at least 2 previous years out of 10 previous years immediately preceding the relevant previous year. That means same 2 years test you are going to apply. Then in addition to that, you have to see that the stay of Karta during 7 previous years immediately preceding the relevant previous year should be 730 days or more. You had already seen this type of conditions in case of HUF. Now, these 2 additional conditions has to be applied on Karta. You have to see whether Karta has stayed for 730 days in 7 previous years, immediately preceding the relevant previous year, or Karta is resident at least in 2 previous years, immediately preceding the relevant previous year in 10 preceding previous years. If both the conditions are satisfied, then you can say HUF is a resident and an ordinary resident. If none of these conditions are satisfied or any one of the conditions is not satisfied, then you can say resident, the HUF is a resident, but not ordinary resident. Friends, remember that the residential status of Karta for the previous year is irrelevant. But for the 10 preceding previous years is relevant. Here we are seeing the residential status of Karta.
Yes, sir.
Did you understand?
Yes, sir.
Now, at this stage, let me summarize. To know the residential status of an individual, two things are important. First of all, you will see the place of control and management. Because on that basis, we'll be able to primarily classify whether an HUF is resident or not resident. Right? Once that part is over, then we'll apply the additional conditions. And when coming to additional conditions, the Karta plays an important role. We have to say in the 7 preceding previous years means immediately preceding the relevant previous year, whether the Karta has stayed 730 days or more. And in the 10 previous years preceding the relevant previous year, if the Karta is resident for at least 2 previous years or not. On that basis, we'll be able to decide if both these additional conditions are satisfied, then you can say Karta is or the HUF is resident and ordinarily resident. Else, the primary condition is satisfied, but 2 additional conditions are not satisfied. Then we can say it's a resident, but not ordinarily resident. Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So, friends, we'll just take a pause for maybe 10-15 minutes, then we'll catch up.
Okay, sir.
Yes, friends. We are discussing about the residential status of HUF. And this is what we have understood. That HUF can be resident in India or non-resident in India. And once is resident, depending upon the Karta's number of days of stay or his residential status, we can also classify as ordinary resident or not ordinary resident. Okay, so if you look at this chart, it will summarize you the provisions that we have now. First, you have to see, is the control and management of its affairs situated wholly or partly in India? This is the primary condition. If no, then HUF is a what?
Non-resident.
Non-resident. If yes, then you have to see if the Karta is resident in India at least 2 previous years out of 10 previous years, which is preceding the relevant previous year. Plus, you have to also see his stay in India is for 730 days or more during the 7 previous years preceding the relevant previous year. If yes, then he is a resident and ordinary resident. If no, then HUF is resident but not ordinary resident. Okay, this is what we have understood. So, on that basis, here is a question for you. I request again some of you, please read out this question.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The business of HUF is transacted from Australia and all the policy decisions are taken there. So, sir, non-resident.
Okay. Then next point you read.
Yes, sir. Mr. E, the Karta of the HUF, who was born in Kolkata, visits India during the previous year 21-22 after 15 years.
Okay.
Non-resident.
Now,
But sir, we have to look whether the company decisions, all the managerial, like all the management and all decisions are taken over here or not.
okay,
But,
please read the entire question. This is in fact one question.
Yes, sir. Mr. E, the Karta of HUF, who was born in Kolkata, visits India. Yes, sir. So you're saying something?
No. Please continue.
Visits India during the previous year 21-22 after 15 years. He comes to India on 1st April 2021 and leaves for Australia on 1st December 2021. So for the assessment year 2022 and 2023, determine the residential status of Mr. E and the HUF form.
Okay.
So Mr. E is non-resident for sure.
We'll check.
And
See, this is the
yes,
date. Just try to remember. Okay. So E is the Karta,
yes, sir.
and HUS policy decisions are taken from Australia.
Hmm.
Okay, and he is visiting India in the previous year 21-22, and this after 15 years. That is, he was staying in Australia and coming to India. And he is coming on 1/4/21 and leaves for Australia on 1/12/21. Okay, he comes in the month of April and leaves in December 1st. Okay, so let us see how to calculate. We'll follow this. Then look at this answer. So we have to see during the previous year 21-22, because my assessment year is 22-23, my previous year is 21-22. I have to calculate that he has stayed for 245 days. That you please calculate 245 days, because when he is coming from April, okay, right, April 30 days, then May 31 days, like this you have to calculate, and he is living in December 1. So for December, we have taken 1 day. So all taken together, how many days? 245. The moment he is staying 245 days, he is becoming resident. Is it not? But however, you have to remember, he has come to India after 15 years. Okay. So once he's resident, we have to again supposed to classify the resident and ordinary resident. So how to know he's a resident and ordinary resident? You have to see 7 preceding previous years, 730 days, and 10 preceding previous years, resident in 2 years. But he is coming after 15 years. That means he does not satisfy the conditions being an audit, conditions for ordinary resident. Therefore, for previous year 21-22, his status is resident but not ordinary resident. Okay, and the question is, his status is clear.
Yes, sir.
Now, coming to residential status of the HU, the question has said the policy decisions are taken there. So it can be assumed that the control and management is from Australia. Okay, so that means it is wholly from outside. Therefore, HUF is not resident. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Here the question says the policy decisions are taken there. But our income tax provisions are saying what? Control and management. So in case there is a dispute between these two things, let us say policy decisions are taken at one place, or control and management is from another place, then we will refer to the place where control and management is taking place. Right? But here, in absence of additional information, we can assume that control and management is taken from a place where policy decisions are taken. Therefore, HUF is non-resident, and Mr. E is a resident but not ordinarily resident. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, well, friends, give me a second. Now, we'll move to the next category of person. You know, several category of persons are there. We have covered individual and HUF only. Now we'll be learning the residential status of a company. Right? So, company, as you are aware of, the definition of company is different from Companies Act 2013 under Income Tax Law, Income Tax Act 1961. The definition of company is provided under Section 2, Clause 70, where the company means Indian company or a body corporate incorporated by or under any law outside India, or an institution, association, or body assessed as a company on or before 1/4/1970, or an institution, association, or body declared by Central Board of Direct Taxes as a company. All of them are referred to as company under the provisions of Income Tax Act 1961. Okay, having understood this, now we also need to understand the meaning of Indian company. Indian company is defined under Section 2, Clause 26, means a company formed and registered under Companies Act 2013 and includes a company formed and registered under any law formerly in force. It also includes a corporation established under central, state, or provincial law. It also includes institution, association, or body declared by CBDT as a company. And also it includes the companies which are formed in the state of Jammu and Kashmir under some law which was there in force at some point of time. It also includes companies which are formed in various union territories like Dadra, Nagar Haveli, Goa, Daman, Diu, Pondicherry, as per the law which were applicable in those union territories at some point of time. So this is the meaning of Indian company. We had discussed this earlier also when we were discussing the definition of persons. Okay, just I wanted to recapitulate. Now, some other points also we need to understand about the companies. First of all, when a particular institution, association, or body is declared by CBDT for a company, then you have to remember it is deemed to be a company only for such assessment year, which is specified in the declaration. It's not that permanently it will become a company, but only for that assessment year it is declared as a company. A company which is under liquidation shall also be regarded as a company. Company need not have share capital. There are some companies which are registered without share capital. For example, companies limited by guarantee. And other possibilities are also there. Companies can be registered without share capital also. Those companies are also companies. Non-profit making companies, which are popularly understood as Section 8 companies, which are registered under Section 8 of the Companies Act, they are also companies. Statutory corporations established under Act of Parliament or state legislature, they are also companies. Then interrelated companies, let us say holding company, subsidiary company, or associate company, all of them are separate companies. As regards to company, you have to remember one more thing. In case company is going to be discontinued, then the assessing officer needs to be intimated within 15 days. Then one more thing, CBDT may also declare a foreign association or body as a company. And one more, not maybe related to the residential status, but still we need to remember, dividend received from a company earning agricultural income is not agricultural income. That is dividend income. Let us say a company is doing agricultural income and he is giving you dividend in the hands of investor, that will not be considered as agricultural income. That is dividend income. That means it may be taxed on other sources or PGBP, but it's not an agricultural income. Now, look at this chart to understand the residential status of the company. Now, here we are learning Section 6(3). Section 3 has got some subsections also. Now, if you see this thing, companies broadly we can classify into two categories. Can you say what are they? On the basis of residential status, there are two possibilities.
So Indian company and non-Indian company, like
That is
foreign company.
normal classification, but for the purpose of residential status, wise, we can classify. Look at this chart and tell me what are the possibilities.
Resident in India, non-resident in India.
Okay, that's it. There is nothing called like resident and ordinary resident, but not ordinary resident. So far as companies are concerned, companies can be either resident or non-resident. Let us say who is a resident in India. If you look at this picture, you can see an Indian company. So an Indian company definition, I told you, companies which are incorporated in India under Companies Act 1913 or any other Companies Act 2013 or any other previous law, or laws which are applicable to different states or even territories, all of them are Indian companies. Okay, all Indian companies are invariably resident in India. Or means here we are talking about the non-Indian company, or foreign company. Or during the previous year, its place of effective management. In case of HUF, we are discussing about the phrase and control and management. But when we are coming to companies, we'll be discussing one more phase that is called as the place of effective management, POEM. Okay. This poem, POEM, we'll discuss what is the place of effective management. So during the previous year, if the place of effective management at any time is in India, then that will be also regarded as resident. Okay, that means that our part is applicable to non-Indian companies or foreign companies. But friends, here you have to remember one more important point. That foreign company means whose gross turnover or receipt is exceeding rupees 50 crore. If it is not exceeding 50 crore, then it will be treated as non-resident. This additional condition also you have to. Okay, the foreign company whose gross receipt or turnover is exceeding 50 crore, and during the previous year, its place of business of effective management, in its place of effective management at any time is in India, that will be regarded as resident in India. And coming to which company is a non-resident in India, which company's residential status is non-resident in India, you will see if it is a non-Indian company, that means foreign company, and during the previous year, its place of effective management at any time is not in India. That means it is never in India at any point of time during the previous year. Okay, and here to remember the next part, the foreign companies whose turnover or gross receipt is less than or equal to 50 shall be non-resident.
Yes, sir.
Clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So primarily you have to remember Indian company always resident. Foreign company, its place of effective management is in India, is resident. Okay, that's all you have to do. Okay, since Indian companies are always resident, so coming to non-resident, first of all, you have to see this is definitely a non-Indian company. In addition to, you have to see that place of effective management at any time is not in India. During the previous year, never the place of effective management has happened to be in India. Plus, you have to remember one additional condition. If the foreign company is a small company, that means gross turnover and gross receipt is less than 50 crore, it will be treated as non-resident. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, how to determine this residential status? Look at this picture again. Is the company an Indian company? You have to say yes. Yes means company is resident in India. No. Whether the poem of the company is in India. Yes, if it is India, then it is again always resident. If it is no, the company is not. Plus, additional thing you have to remember, foreign companies whose gross turnover is less than 50 crore is always a non-resident. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now you might be thinking how to understand this poem, place of effective management. This means a place where key management and commercial decisions that are necessary for conduct of the business of an entity as a whole are in substance made. Where these key management decisions and commercial decisions are taken, you can say these are the place of it. That is the place of effective management. Okay, so you can consider the minutes of board, where board meetings are held, where key management decisions are taken, where some commercial decisions, maybe some committee decisions are taken. That place can be referred to as the place of effective management. And it has to be taken in substance. And on that basis, you have to see whether the company is registered or not. Okay. If its place of effective management at any time is located in India, then it is a resident in India, unless its gross turnover is less than or equal to 50 crore. Okay, did you understand? Place of effective management.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it clear up to this?
Yes, sir.
Company's residential status. Now, friends, let us see the residential status of all other assets, including farm. Here we'll be talking about farm, AOP, BOI, AJP, local authority. For all of them, rules are quite simple. These assets or this type of persons will be considered as resident when the business is wholly or partly controlled and managed in India. Similar condition we had seen in case of HUF. Only thing is that HUF we have to see that we had to further classify them ordinary or not ordinary. But here we are talking about here with all these persons like farm, AOP, BOI, AJP, local authority can have only two possibilities of residential statuses. One is either they can be resident or non-resident. When they are resident, when the business is wholly or partly controlled or managed in India, and when they're non-resident, when the business is wholly or partly, wholly controlled and managed outside. When it is entirely controlled and managed outside India, then it is non-resident. But if a small segment is controlled from India, then you can say it is wholly controlled from India or partly controlled from India, or wholly managed from India or partly managed from India. So whole or part, if it is located in India, the control and management element, if it is located in India, then it will be a resident. Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Non-resident, only it is wholly controlled and managed outside. If one person is controlled from India, then it is not a non-resident, it's a resident. Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So friends, with this, we came to know that how to arrive at the residential status of various types of products. Now, you might be thinking how taxability is connected to this residential status. So let me briefly tell you today what is the relationship of taxability with residential status. But in detail, we'll be learning it in our next session. Today, let me briefly inform you. For that thing, let me share with you this picture. Yeah. Are you able to see it now? Yeah. Here we will be talking about taxability. As we have seen now, that there are three possibilities so far as residential status is concerned. A person can be resident and ordinary resident, or maybe simply resident, or it can be resident but not ordinary resident, or it can be non-resident. Right? Are you able to see the picture now?
Yes, sir.
These are the three possibilities. This resident and not ordinary resident is possible only for individuals and HUF. And resident and ordinary resident is also possible for individual and HUF. Otherwise, for all other assets, they can be resident and non-resident. Now look at here. What is taxable for a resident? That is resident and ordinarily resident, or resident but not ordinary resident, or non-resident. You see, four kinds of incomes are there. If you compare in this picture, you can find out similar kinds of things are written, similar types of incomes are written in point number 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you read it? Point number 1.
Any income received in India
Okay. Point 2.
deemed to be received in India
Point 3.
accrues or arises in India.
Point 4.
Deemed to accrue or arise in India.
Okay. And you see under the other category also same thing is there. Under resident but not ordinary resident, any income which is received in India, which is deemed to be received in India, accrues or arises in India, deemed to accrue or arise in India. Third is the non-resident case also you can find out any income which is received in India, deemed to be received in India, accrues or arises in India, deemed to accrue or arise in India. That means all these things are same. That means these types of income, if income consists of anything which is received in India or deemed to be received in India or accrues arises in India or deemed to accrue arise in India, irrespective of your residential status, it is taxable. It is taxable to all. Residential status doesn't matter because it is taxable for all. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, point 5 I am showing. Any income which accrues or arises outside. This is the income which is accruing outside India and arising outside. This is taxable to resident and ordinary resident only. Then you see any income which accrues or arises in India with an asterisk mark, you can see it. This is also taxable to resident but not ordinary resident, but this income is not taxable to non-resident. Now let us understand this asterisk mark. It says it is taxable to resident but not ordinary resident, provided it is derived from a business controlled in or a profession set up in India. Then only it will be included with the taxable income of resident and ordinary resident. But here the same thing, any income which accrues or arises in India taxable to resident without any condition. But here there is a condition with the asterisk. And this type of income, any income which accrues arises outside India is not taxable for a non-resident. For non-resident, it is not taxable. Now I think you'll be able to appreciate how residential status is connected with the concept of taxability. First, you have to see whether the income is received in India. If it is not received, whether it is deemed to be received in India, or is it accruing or arising in India, or is it deemed to be accruing or arising? Then what is the meaning of received in India, deemed to be received in India, accruing or arising in India, deemed to accrue or arising in India? This concept I'll be explaining in your next session. In next session, we'll be discussing about the scope of total income. At that time, we'll be able to understand this. Okay. Now, this gives you a broad idea that is income accrues or arises outside India. That means foreign income is not taxable to whom?
Non-resident.
To non-resident. And it is taxable to a resident and ordinary resident only when it is derived from a business controlled in or a profession set up in India. But it is taxable to residents. For resident, it is and resident and ordinary resident is fully taxable. Okay, that is the reason. That is the reason that some kind of income is taxable to non-resident, some kind of income is taxable to resident and ordinary resident, some kind of income is taxable to resident but not ordinary resident. So because of this thing, so we had to classify the persons depending upon their residential status. Okay. When you file the income tax return, or for that matter, when we'll be using the tax calculators in the income tax department's website, you can find out that always it will be asking you your residential status. Yes or no? The concept of residential status is important because on that basis it will be decided whether a particular income is taxable to a particular person or not. Okay. Let me now quickly take you to the income tax department's website to show you the sections that we have learned today. Just give me a moment. Yeah. I think by this time you must be familiar with the Income Tax Department's website. Are you able to see now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So these points that we're discussing right now regarding residential status, if you look at the Income Tax Act, first of all, I am taking you to the Income Tax Act. Okay, so let us see the section wise. You see, section 6 deals with what?
Residents in India.
This status. Section 7, what is this?
Income deemed to be received.
Section 9,
Income deemed to accrue or arise in India.
so if you read these sections, you'll be exactly able to know the points what we are discussing or will be discussing. But right now I'm taking you to, first of all these things, section 6, section 7, section 8, section 9, we'll be discussing. Right now, yeah, scope of total income is also important for us. Okay, so scope of total income we'll be discussing in the next class. Just you have an idea, just you see what is scope of total income. I had given you some broad idea. Right, if you see this section 5, you see which is received or deemed to be received in India. Here we are talking about which income is taxable per home. Person who is resident in India includes income from whatever he has derived from these sources. So this is what we call it as the scope of total income we'll be discussing. Okay. Now let me take you to section 6 also, just to show you how really law looks like. So whenever you get time, please read these sections. Section 6, we are talking about residents in India. This is what I taught you today. In fact, you see, this is section 6. Right, you see primary condition. Individual is said to be resident in India in any previous year if he is in India for a period or periods amounting to 182 days or more. Then you see having 4 previous years, you see these are the conditions, these are the exceptions. Are you seeing it here? So whatever has been taught to you, it is here. For HUF, you see these conditions are there. Then what is the not ordinary resident? These concepts are also there. And you can see the related rules also. Okay, are you seeing all these things?
Yes, sir.
The purpose of showing you this in the income tax website is that you please read these provisions. Okay, what is this income? Let us say residence in section 7 is income deemed to be received. Just have a look at what are the incomes which are deemed to be received in India. Okay, you can see annual accretion in the previous year, the balance of credit to the employees participating in recognized provident fund, transfer balance of recognized provident fund. So all these concepts we'll be discussing in our next session. Section 7, I showed you. Dividend income treatment will be made differently. We'll be seeing that section 8. Now let me take you to section 9. What is the income deemed to accrue or arise in it? Okay, the following incomes shall be deemed to accrue or arise in India. Okay. I think you got a fair idea now. First, what we have understood, what is income, etc. All these things we have understood. We have seen what is residential status and what is the relevance of residential status for taxability, for the taxability concept. That also we have understood. Any specific query you have to this?
No, sir.
Thank you very, very much.